Welcome back, guys. So this is going to be the Sagittarius video. So Sagittarius is going to be the 9th sun sign in the zodiac. It's going to be maybe like the 18th video in this series and probably like the 10th video now in the sun signs portion of the series. So we're going to talk about Sagittarius's dates. We're going to talk about some qualities that we can associate with Sagittarius, keywords that we can learn to link to Sagittarius. So when you first think of that sign, you'll be able to immediately know what you're talking about and link that, connect that to other things going on in the astrology realm. We'll talk about some famous Sagittarius and other like really important things to know about Sagittarius. So let's get into the video. If I say any terms in these videos like mutable or masculine sign, something like that that you're not familiar with, I have made videos purposefully before I went into the sun signs portion, explaining what all of these terms mean, because I knew that coming into the sun signs video there might be some terms that you're not familiar with. So if you go and watch those videos that I posted, those are probably like the first 2 or 3 that I ever posted on this channel. You can go and watch those and get a quick recap on this before watching the Sag video. If you have been watching all of my videos and you know exactly what I'm talking about and you're ready to go, let's start. So the first thing that we're going to talk about concerning Sagittarius are going to be Sagittarius's dates. So Sagittarius's dates are going to be from November 22nd to December 21st. So if your birthday is November 22nd, November 25th, or December 21st, you're going to be a Sagittarius. As soon as you hit that December 22nd line, you're going to fall into the Capricorn category. And if you came before November 22nd, you're going to be in the Scorpio category. So if your birthday is November 20th, well, I'm sorry, but you're a Scorpio. I know that there is something called cusps in astrology, basically when you feel like you have or you fall into both categories of a sign because you're on that cusp. So for example, if you, I think it's usually like the 3 days before and after a sign starts. So like maybe your birthday is November 21st or something like that, and you feel like when people ask you your sign, you'll say that you're a Scorpio Sagittarius cusp. I don't particularly believe in cusps. I will make a video on why I don't believe in them and why I feel like the qualities that you may link to having that makes you feel like you fall into both of those categories. I'll explain why I believe that those qualities that you have can be represented by something else in your chart. I don't believe like, oh well, I'm a Scorpio and I'm very private, but I also am very like outgoing. Maybe I'm on that cusp. I don't believe that those qualities are represented particularly by the date that you were born, but by different placements in your charts that may point to that. For example, you might be a Scorpio with the Sagittarius rising, and that's why you may go into things very enthusiastic or something like that. I feel like there's something else that can point to it, but like I said, I will make a video on that after I finish all of the sun signs. So after Pisces goes up, I'll make a cusp video, then we'll probably get into the moon signs, what a natal chart is, so on. So like I said, if you're November 22nd to December 21st, then you're going to fall into the Sagittarius category. So let's move on to the next thing about Sagittarius that we should know. Okay, so the representation of Sagittarius is the archer or the centaur. Okay, so if you know what a centaur is, I'm going to try and post a picture somewhere on here and maybe a picture of like an archer or something on here if I can. Basically, a centaur is like half human, half horse. Traveler, mythological creature. But so why do we get this representation of the archer or the centaur for Sagittarius? So Sagittariuses are very direct and blunt. They have very high aims, okay, and they love to be outdoors, they love to travel, and that's how you can kind of link or remember these representations of, because an archer, you know, most of the time when you see an archer, they're outside. Like, if you ever seen the movie like Brave or something like that, the little girl's outside, you know, blowing arrows or whatever it is. A centaur is outside traveling, you know, galloping on its legs and stuff like that. So that's where you get that love for outdoors, that traveling, adventurous being that they are. With the archer, they have those arrows, so that's where you get that high aims that is associated with being a Sagittarius. Okay, so let's move on to this glyph of Sagittarius. So this glyph of Sagittarius is kind of cool because it's actually the arrow that is supposed to be coming from, you know, like the centaur or the archer's bow. Okay, note how this arrow is going to be pointed upwards and it's going to be kind of angled. Okay, this is very important to know about Sagittarius, the Sagittarius glyph. Okay, it's always going to be pointed that way. Okay, so like I said, this is supposed to be a free range arrow of the archer. Another representation of this glyph, though, is basically going to be the body part of the knee to the thigh. This is because Sagittarius rules this body part. So that's where you might also hear when you hear about the glyph, oh, what is the glyph a representation of? It's a representation of, you know, an arrow, free range arrow of the archer, a symbolization of the knee to the thigh, and then there's another symbolization that we can associate with this glyph. Okay, so I mentioned how this glyph is going to be angled this way, kind of like that, for a reason. This glyph is supposed to be a representation of the line of wisdom angled away from trouble. Okay, so we will always see that angle that way because the arrow is supposed to be angled away from trouble on that line of wisdom. And then that point at the end is going to be pointing towards higher ideals, which we will talk about a little bit more when we talk about the ruler of Sagittarius, which is going to be Jupiter. Okay, so Sagittarius is going to be a masculine mutable sign. Okay, I talked about what it is to be a masculine sign, and I also talked about what it means to be a mutable sign, but I'm going to touch over what it means to be a mutable sign as a Sagittarius, because each modality, these mutable fixed cardinal signs, they all have specific qualities about them, and then they also have specific ways that they manifest being these modalities. For example, Virgo is going to be a mutable sign. Gemini is a mutable sign. Gemini is always trying to adapt, being that mutable sign, to learning new things and sharing that knowledge with other people. Sagittarius is kind of the same way, but they also manifest their mutable sign energy differently because they are a fire sign. So as a fire, or as a mutable fire sign, Sagittariuses are going to be very adventurous. They're willing to try new things. In fact, they want to try new things. They don't want to be tied down to a routine. They want to constantly expand their knowledge and through experience. The difference between you know, that of Gemini. Geminis are very open-minded and free willing. Like, you know, they'll go with the flow. If somebody wants to do something, they're down for the cause, you know what I mean? Sagittarius is going to be that mutable sign with that adventurous energy that's like, let's go do this, you know what I mean? Or Aries is going to be the one that let's go do this, that cardinal fire sign, and then Sagittarius is down for the cause. You're like, yeah, let's do this. I never tried this before, let's keep going. Like, you know, that's the Sagittarius mutable fire sign energy that you get. What else do we get about this Sagittarius with this mutable fire sign energy? So as a fire sign, Sagittarius is always going to be exploring and pushing the boundaries to try new things, okay? They don't want any limitations to what it is that they can do, which is why if you have a Sagittarius in like maybe like a place where they're not allowed to choose their own path, where they're not allowed to pick what they want to do or something like that, they're going to be very restricted. They're going to feel very restricted, and, you know, they're going to self-sabotage because that's not a situation that they want to be in. So if you know a Sagittarius and you feel like they're putting themselves in a box, they're very uncomfortable or something like that, you know, have a conversation with them and give them options, because as that fire sign, having that fire sign energy and being ruled by Jupiter, which we'll talk about later, this frustration that they may get will cause them to be very explosive in their energy of self-sabotaging, meaning that they will make things worse than they actually need to be. You can sit down with Sagittarius, Sagittarius brother, sister, whoever, and just let them know, listen, I know you might be uncomfortable in this situation, but we'll figure something out. And that doesn't have to be with I don't know, this can be with, you know, maybe a friend group. Maybe they feel restricted and you don't necessarily want to lose that friend, but you need to sit down and have a conversation with them. Maybe it's something to do with their home life or school or work, something like that. Anything where they might feel restricted, just have a conversation with them. And if that doesn't work, well then, you know, they're gonna have to, you know, be that archer and put the arrow towards a different direction. And if you want to stay in that Sagittarius's life, which I recommend you do because they're great, then you'll follow them and you'll just be there for them when they need to go down that new path. So I already talked about qualities of Sagittarius, but I want to put this in because I feel like this is something people might think about all the time, and like concerning Sagittarius, and I don't know, I'll put it in here. If you feel like a Sagittarius is like pulling away from you, or you can't get a Sagittarius to sit down and do something, they said they were going to do it and they just didn't end up doing it. Maybe Sagittarius you feel like is just not down for the cause. They're not, you know, they're not committing to you or something like that. the fact of the matter is, they might feel very restricted being around you or being in that situation. Okay, if you want a Sagittarius, you're going to need to make sure that you're keeping that Sagittarius active. You're keeping their mind active. You're keeping the things that they're doing exciting. They're not bored. Sagittariuses are the archer, the centaur, the travelers. You know, they need adventure. They need spontaneity. They need to be spontaneous sometimes, you know. They need things to keep them going. So if maybe that's a problem that you're having with the Sagittarius, maybe it's your kid and you feel like your Sagittarius kid is just, you know, like not really doing enough, or they're feeling very sad or something like that, maybe it'll help to get them outdoors, to get them to try new things, even if they're like, you know, kind of against it in the beginning. They might actually, you know, thank you for it or feel very happy that you got them to that point after. So if you're having a problem like that with the Sag, there you go, you're welcome. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier, how Sagittarius is going to be ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter was a Roman god of the heavens. So Jupiter represents good fortune, optimism, expansion, and abundance. If you ever met a Sag and you feel like, oh, that Sag was just too much, they're just extra as hell, like, I don't know, not my cup of tea. Or maybe that is your cup of tea and you're like, yo, you a Bob bitch, you extra, I like that. That's that Jupiter energy that Sagittarius has from being ruled by Jupiter. Okay, they can't help but be big. They can't help but have these big ideas and big things that they want to do because they're ruled by Jupiter. Okay, so we have talk about this, how the zodiac is basically supposed to be a cycle of life, and each sign is going to represent a specific archetype that we need in this world to go through this cycle. Okay, so we have Leo, which is kind of one of the very first big signs that we have. Obviously Aries is a big sign because they're the first sign, they're the child, they're the ones that's originally exposing us to life. Okay, then we get to the next fire sign, Leo, which is exposing us to ourselves. Basically the first time that we're going to be able to represent who we are as ourselves. Okay, and then when we get to Jupiter, I talked about how Jupiter when we get to Sagittarius, I talked about how in the Scorpio video, we are, as a Scorpio, when we get to that specific archetype, we are trying to transform ourselves. And once we hit that transformation, we get to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is going to want to continue to expand ourselves in the things that we try, in our experiences. Okay, so that's the energy that we get from Jupiter. What else do we get from Jupiter as a Sagittarius? So I talked about how Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of teaching and philosophy. Okay, so when we get to Jupiter, we're going to learn about, basically, we're going to get to that point where we're thinking, why are things this way? Why does this work this way? Why are we like this? Why is society like this? Why should we do this and not that? What do we need to do to be better? How can we expand? How can we get this abundance that we want? You know, that's what we get when we get to Jupiter, and that's what we get when we get to Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is constantly going to be thinking of higher learning, and whether that be more philosophical or just things that most people may not be concerned with, like maybe, you know, a Sagittarius that is like really into like quantum physics, or maybe it's not even something that's maybe sounds that outlandish. Maybe it's just they're interested in history and they want to learn about all the way in the beginning. Maybe they're interested in anthropology, stuff like that. They're always going to be concerned with higher learning. When they learn something new, they always are like, but there's something else. There's always something else to learn. Okay, and this doesn't mean that they might be particularly fancy with education, okay, because we know that the education system, at least in the United States, it needs a lot of work, okay, but we do know that being ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius wants to learn new things, whether that be through experience, which is primarily what we'll get from this Sagittarian and Jupiter influence. It's not going to be more so like learning through books and things like that, conversations like Gemini has, the sister sign of Sagittarius, but more through experience. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that contrast between these two sister signs, you can go back and watch the Gemini and Sagittarius video that I made, because that might be very beneficial for you to understand more in depth what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about concerning Sagittarius are going to be these body parts that Sagittarius rules. So Sagittarius is going to rule the thighs, hips, and the liver. Okay, so it's very important for Sagittarius to exercise. Keep yourself active, okay? Because when a Sagittarius is not being active, that's when they start to be very uncomfortable, when they feel like they're very restricted and they start to self-sabotage. As a Sagittarius, you need to make sure that you're exercising, whether that be walking up and down the hallway or something like that. Sagittarius very much like to be outdoors, so they need that sun. Or maybe it's you're Sagittarius and you don't like to be outdoors, but you need sunlight. If you need sunlight or you need light, open your window, you know, get a light in your room so you're not feeling cramped. Especially if it's a Sagittarius rising, okay, or a Sagittarius moon. This is very important. Make sure that you're staying active. Make sure that you're doing all of those things that you need to, because we need that Sagittarius energy to be ready for everything, okay? I have mentioned this in all the videos. Basically, whatever body part that your sign rules, especially if it's your Saturn sign, which I'll talk about that. You might be like, what the fuck does that even mean? I'll talk about that, don't worry. That video will be coming up pretty soon. But if your Sagittarius is in, your Saturn is in Sagittarius, you need to be very careful with these body parts as a Sagittarius sun and as Saturn and Sagittarius, okay? Because what Saturn does is basically gives us those restrictions and those problems that we need to overcome. So you need to be aware of that when you have these body parts ruled by that sign in by that Saturn sign. If you have Sagittarius as your Saturn sign, just be aware of that, because that can be something that you may link with complications that you may have, whether that be overuse of alcohol, you know, hurting your liver or something like that, hepatitis, things like that you need to watch out for. Just be aware of it, okay? Talk about this with every sign. I think it's a cool tidbit to know. Yeah, we're going to talk about these qualities that we can learn to associate with Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are pretty tech savvy, okay? To a fault sometimes. You might be a Sagittarius and they are like tied to their phone or tied to their electronics or something like that. Even though they might be, you know, that sign that needs to be outdoors, that doesn't mean that they might not forget that sometimes. Doesn't mean they might be isolating themselves with their phones or something like that too much. You know, if you see that happening, talk to the Sagittarius and be like, yo, you need to take your ass outside, okay? Stop clinging to that phone. Stop swiping through Instagram or whatever. Stop reading stuff online. Go outside and experience. Your Sagittarius is what you need to do, okay? Just remind that Sagittarius if that's a problem that they're having, okay? What's another thing that we need to be able to guide our Sagittarius friends, loved ones, whatever? And Sagittarius can be very naive and or childish, okay? Sagittarius are very generous and kind people. So kind of like children, when they first meet somebody, they don't really know what they need to look out for yet. Sagittarius is the same way. Sometimes they put blind faith in people to a fault, where they might be, you know, used for that generous nature that they have or something like that. That luck that Sagittarius is usually linked to having, something like that, you know, they might be taken advantage of. So you need to watch out for your Sagittarius friends, Sagittarius, Mercury's, Mars, whoever, that are just, you know, constantly trying to give to other people. Make sure that they're doing that in a healthy way, okay? So Sagittarius can be a little bit conceited, okay? So if you know Sagittarius and they're constantly, you know, talking about themselves in the best way, sometimes you need to let them know. Bitch, your shit stink too. Okay, but you know, also gas them up. Like if that's your loved one, somebody that you rocking with, let them know that they're good. Let them know the things that they're good at. Let them know that the things that they need to work on are shit they need to work on. You know, don't let them get too in over their head with that Jupiter expansion energy, because you know, sometimes it's where you get that crash and burn or self-sabotage when they, you know, overestimate what they are able to do in that moment. Okay, just let them know Sagittariuses are very adventurous, okay? That means that you need to have a conversation with your Sagittarius friend, whether it's Sagittarius sun, rising, I don't care. Any Sagittarius influence or fire sign influence that makes someone just go and rush into something, sit down and have them plan. Make a plan. If you want to go do this, what step do you need to do to get there, okay? Because luck might run out, okay? Or somebody might sabotage your luck. You don't know what's going on, but you need to let them know that sometimes shit happens and you can't just, you know, cruise your way through it. Sometimes you're gonna have to do some actual work and make sure that what you're doing is safe. Make sure that what you're doing is going to be okay for you in the long run, okay? As a Sagittarius' loved ones, you need to let them know, listen, this probably wasn't the best idea to do right now. Maybe you should wait until you finish this part. Just make sure that you're letting them know that it's okay to do these things. We're not telling you not to do them things, but just make sure you're doing them at the right time. Make sure that you're aware of everything that you need to do those things, you know. just be aware. I'm a Virgo. One of my best friends is a Sag, and you know, sometimes I gotta let him know, sir, you need to plan this. You need to do this before you get into there, because what happens if so and so and so, you know, we're both mutable signs, but I'm that Virgo mutable sign that's constantly worrying. Okay, so keep them in check. Sagittarius ironically have like resting bitch face. If you're that Sagittarius rising, I'm so sorry, because people are constantly probably looking at you like, why she look like that? Why you look like that? Why they look like that? Why do they look so angry all the time? I wanted to talk to them, but I don't know. They just look like they didn't like me. Talk to a Sagittarius, okay? They're very friendly people once you get to know them. They can't help their face, and if you know, they might not even know that their face is looking at that. Their face might be looking at that because some shit stank, and doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like you. It can be whatever fucking reason. Talk to them, and if they don't like you, Sagittarius is very blunt and direct people. If they don't like you, they're gonna let you know they don't like you. They don't want you in their space. They need you to get out of their way. You know, more developed Sagittarius will be those ones that are very honest with you and let you know, listen, I'm not feeling your energy. I don't need to be around you right now. Please leave me alone so I can do this. Okay. Sagittarius are generally very honest people, and if you're watching this and right now and you're like, how should you just gonna sit here and tell that bold-faced lie? The thing is, Sagittarius is only going to be honest with you when they feel comfortable with you, when they value your opinion, when they value you as a person. And I know that kind of sounds like weird, but it's the truth. Okay, if you don't know Sagittarius very well, odds are they're probably not going to be as honest with you as they are with other people, because they don't trust you that much. Okay, Sagittarius put the blind faith in people, but to a certain extent. Okay, when they're really close with you, they're going to tell you, you know, the things that they actually are important to them, because they'll value your opinion. Okay, they are ruled by Jupiter, so they're going to be the sign of teaching and learning, but sometimes they might need advice from you, or sometimes they just want to talk to you about a certain thing until they get to that point where they can let go of that Jupiter energy that they have and put that into you. Well, you're just gonna have to put up with the small lies. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about concerning Sagittarius are going to be keywords that we can learn to associate with them. You can probably guess this by now, or maybe you came up with some keywords to associate with Sagittarius just from watching this video, or from Sagittarius you know or have seen. But I'm going to give you two other phrases or keywords that you can learn to associate. First ones are going to be I expand or I grow. Okay, so I talked about, and I continue talking about this because I want it to get into your head. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and like I mentioned before, we had Scorpio that's going to learn about, you know, it's going to be considered a transformation. Then when you get to Sagittarius, we're going to want to expand or grow after this transformation. Okay, so those are the keywords that we'll learn to associate. And to end this video, we're going to talk about some famous Sagittariuses in this world. Okay, so you probably already know the main one, the bad bitch Nicki Minaj. Okay, when she came out, that bitch was big. Her outfits were big. She was seen. Okay, that's how you can kind of link these qualities that I've talked about in this video to famous people or people that you know that are just Sagittarius. Like, oh, Nicki Minaj is a Sag, that makes sense. Okay, who are some other Sagittariuses in this world? Jayy is a Sagittarius. Christina Aguilera, Sagittarius. Beethoven was a Sagittarius, I'm pretty sure. Frank Sinatra. The list kind of goes on. I think Miley Cyrus is a Sag. Who else? Charlie Puth, Rita Ora. Those are all Sagittariuses. Okay, so that was the end of this video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys learned a lot. You remember these dates, famous Sagittariuses, that you can connect these qualities I talked about before to. I hope that you just learned a lot, and stay tuned for the next 2 videos, 3 videos, 4 videos. So thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for the next videos.